podcast with your host, Sana. On this podcast, we explore the beautiful intersection of personal growth, mental well being, and success. How we can all create a fulfilling life while navigating the challenges that come our way. And today, I have a truly inspiring guest with us, Lauren Nicole Balterman. Now, listeners, let me share a bit about Lauren with all of you. Lauren connects life and business, helping women become the most successful and present version of themselves. She's a therapist, life and business coach, and she is also the CEO of two multi six figure businesses. And she also specializes in mindset work using CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, internal family systems, IFS, narrative therapy, and NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, to help high achieving women break free from burnout and, in fact, unlock their full potential. And also, she has navigated through her own journey. She has walked the path herself, working over 70 plus hours a week for years, balancing multiple roles, and eventually making the bold leap to fully commit to coaching. A journey of overcoming challenges, embracing self belief, and redefining success is something I know so many of you will connect with. So, whether you are a business owner, a parent, or someone struggling with balance, I am very much confident today's conversation will be packed with insights and actionable, executionable steps you can use in your own life. So, let's quickly dive in. And Lauren, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor having you with us.
Thank you so much, Sana. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I am so excited to be here.
Lovely. So Lauren, let's start with CBT and mindset work because I think uh, many of our listeners may relate to that. So a lot of people hear CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and think it's just about challenging our negative thoughts, but I think it's much deeper than that. So you specialize in CBT and mindset coaching. Can you break down how these methods help high achieving women, especially those who struggle with overworking or maybe overthinking?
Absolutely. So CBT is such a word that in the past couple years, I found it, it's definitely out there. More and more people are noticing it and really understanding the modality. The very core idea is, what you think affects how you feel and how it really truly influences what you do. So, yes, CBT does help people identify negative or unhelpful thought patterns, replacing them with more constructive, more realistic ones. And I really say it's the gold standard in terms of therapy, right? How it truly helps high achieving people, people in general, but whether you're a business owner, a parent, it comes down to truly understanding yourself at a much deeper level, right? So I call that self mastery. And it really is that first initial gateway, if you will, in order to really understand who you are and how you tick. And of course, like I had mentioned, the negative things that are going to be holding you back.
Mm, makes sense. So how all did you start with your journey? Where all this started, how what was the transition, moment of change when you decided to get into the world of mindset, coaching, and helping women navigate through all the challenges and unlock their full potential.
Absolutely. So, after graduating a master's degree specializing in CBT, I was always one completely fascinated about the human mind, right? Human psychology, human behavior, again, the way that people tick. And for me, it is all about depth, right? You can never go too far, right? There's always a why, there's always a reason. We can always dig in. And I tell clients all the time, like, let's unpack. So for me, I live this life where I had put so much pressure on myself, and I think I was my very own first guinea pig where it was like, well, let's actually get to the root of what was going on, in this real non-judgmental way. So I practiced so much of, what I ended up doing truly on me, right? And when I had already built two successful businesses, in one of them was health and wellness and a coaching business in that aspect. The other one was through private practice and therapy. And so many people, started coming to me and they said, "Can you help me build my business?" And it was a really interesting time for me because all of these tools and strategies and things that I had been teaching people, I asked myself, is this business coaching? And what I really thought about, and you said this so beautifully when you were introducing me, was I help people find their zone of genius, right? I help people really anchor into their story and their uniqueness. So much of this for the entrepreneurs out there is your messaging, right? Really, truly understanding who you are at a deep core level. So, as I started working with more and more business owners, I saw the incredible and immense value. Whereas I'm an individual that I love strategy and I love marketing and I love all these things. But we can have all these strategies. You can have, hundreds. It doesn't matter how many. And if you're not coming back to truly understanding your thoughts, which are 100% correlated to your belief system, you're going to get plateaued at some point in time.
Mm, yeah, yeah. And what a journey, Lauren. And another aspect of your work is you also use IFS, which is internal family systems, which I believe it's a really fascinating approach to understanding the different parts of ourselves, because family is such an integral part of our journey, of the personality, uh, of the thought process, in fact, subconscious minds. So can you explain how IFS can help entrepreneurs who struggle with maybe self sabotaging or limiting beliefs? Or I think it would be more relevant to relate imposter syndrome.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So, whereas CBT, like I was saying, it's that gateway modality, right? IFS just takes things so much deeper. So, the basis of this is that we as individuals are all this encompassing, we're different parts, we're various parts of our personality and our unique roles. So, especially in entrepreneurship, because I always say, entrepreneurship, owning a business is a one-way golden ticket to personal development, right? To really seeing what are those wounded parts of you? What are those parts that have inner conflict? Like you were saying, whether that's self-sabotage, whether, it's fear of failure, fear of success, imposter syndrome, all of these different things, these are coming up for individuals because of wounded parts, because of different things that people have been through in their past lives, their experiences, and they all come down to truly healing those parts of you.
That's such an interesting concept, Lauren. I think acknowledging the different parts of us may have different agendas. So do you have any go-to exercise or method you use with clients to help them navigate these internal conflicts?
Yes, absolutely. So, the first thing that I tell clients to do is even before getting into IFS techniques, is really going back to the CBT and doing what I call a thought record. And with that, if you're listening right now, you can always reach out on Instagram or Facebook and I can give you a free worksheet. But what that is your really just understanding a lot of like what your triggers are. A lot of, I always say your triggers are your guides. So when you're doing a thought record, you are noticing, you're witnessing, you're acknowledging negative. automatic thoughts. So the way in which you would do this, it's very, very simple. You can make it on your own. If you are putting columns onto a piece of paper, you would start to recognize different events. So it could be someone doesn't email you back, or you do something in your business and it doesn't end up going the way that you would like or you anticipated or hoped for, right? That would be an event. And then in your next column, you would go right into the negative automatic thought. So, what is that thought tied into who you are and what is true about you? So, like, I'm never going to make it, or I'm not good enough, or whatever those thoughts may be. Then you're going to acknowledge the feelings that are associated there. And then when you get to that last part, and this is kind of what you had mentioned earlier, because people think CBT is just simply challenging. And it goes so much deeper than that because when I do this one on one with clients, and again, you can even start to do this on your own, when you look at that last column, which is the quote unquote challenge or a reframe, you're actually going to ask yourself the question, is this rational? Was this a rational, a negative automatic thought? You're going to ask that question, number one. And then number two, you're going to ask yourself, am I ready to move through this? And that's a really, really important question, right? If it is deeply rooted and very emotionally charged, you might not be ready to. And then from there, before you just say the complete opposite of what that negative event or automatic thought was, you're actually gonna honor yourself. You're actually gonna say, "I am feeling that way due to blank." You're gonna try to connect that to a past experience, and you're gonna honor and meet yourself where you are. Then you go into the challenge or the reframe, and when you do that, you also have to believe that. So you have to find something that you actually believe and you can see to be true.
Wow. So, well, if I share my personal experiences, so uh, it for me it becomes very difficult to say no to whatever my client or the person I'm working with is saying or asking me to do or requesting me to do, because I always have that fear subconsciously that if I say no, or if I start to justify by saying that maybe I'm not able to do this, I won't be able to do this. I cannot even mention that I won't be doing this or I won't be able to do this because of so much reason. I have that fear that this person may not work with me in future, or they may not come back to me for any further services, and this may hinder my business or revenue. So how do you suggest to navigate these kind of situations? Especially for women entrepreneurs, I think it becomes much more difficult because um, it kind of has been ingrained to us that whatever has been told to you, these are your responsibilities, and you have to do this, irrespective of how much difficult it's for you.
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. 100%. I truly love the example that you just brought to the surface here. It's something that I hear so, so often, unfortunately. And so what is actually going on there is a negative thought pattern, right? You are stuck, quote unquote, um in a thought pattern or a belief system that is going to keep you there until we truly move away from that. And I tell clients all the time, if this is you, we do that through two avenues, and you can do one or you can do both. You can do them at the same time. Number one is actual healing, right? Because if there are any people pleasing tendencies, struggling to say no, even it could be like undercharging or over delivering, or any of these things.
Hmm.
There's going to be we have to uncover those parts of you where this actually all started, and that would be a beautiful IFS session where we are going into how does this feel within your body, and going into visualization and understanding where in your life, this really started. And again, the IFS is such a healing modality. So that's kind of the healing route. Where a lot of entrepreneurs begin is going into behavioral adaptation, where you it's almost like an exposure therapy in ways, right? So if you notice what you said here, you had mentioned, I'm so scared, right? Like I don't want to say no. Oh my gosh, what is going to happen? You can possibly go into those what if scenarios. They're not going to sign with me. They're not going to do this. They're going to think XYZ of me, right? All of these what ifs. And from there, and this, takes quite a bit of it can be scary. And this is where, having someone by your side to kind of push you and expand you is really helpful. But it's essentially gathering the data and the evidence that like you are going to be okay because you have a neural pathway right now in your mind saying that like this is so scary. I cannot do this. The worst case scenario is going to happen. So we actually need to put evidence in place to build that new neural pathway to actually show your mind and your body and your nervous system that it's
Mhm.
going to be okay. So what I would say to you or anyone out there in this scenario is start on something really, really small, right? Like not some massive project. And saying no is actually a really hard thing for many people, whether you're, you have people pleasing tendencies or not. So I always say to people, craft a different response, right? Like have something ready and really be able to craft that. But the goal would be put yourself out there to collect that information and data, right? And as a business owner, you can be picky and choosy. Are you going to pick the one client or individual that it's like the most scary to do that? I would say no, right? I had a therapy client a couple weeks ago that she is such a type A individual. She's on time. She cannot let anyone down, like says yes to everything, right? And I said, "Do you want to challenge this? Because this is absolutely putting her into overwhelm and burnout. She is just so spread thin. It's just like her body. I mean, when she signs on and her body is like completely overwhelmed, I said to her, "Okay, is this a place that you wanna stay in?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Great, then we need to expand this. We need to build that new neural pathway." And what we did, it was the smallest baby step. I said, "A friend, okay, not a client, the next time you tell a friend, you're gonna call them at, say, 12 o'clock, I want you to purposefully be 5 minutes late." And I could see the fear that, like, went all over her face. And I said, "You can call that person, right? And you can, explain to them, like, hey, I'm just a couple minutes late, but you get to remind yourself that it's no big deal. That friend, that person's going to love you anyway, and you're going to move on." And she was able to collect that information and data, again, building that new neural pathway.
Wow. Wow. I think that's really a success story. Uh,
Ah,
Also, you know, when we see success story, there is narrative therapy, and it's another powerful tool you leverage, Nicole. Uh, so many entrepreneurs they get stuck in limiting beliefs because of past failures that we have discussed. So, how can someone start rewriting their story and shifting their identity to one that aligns with success?
oh my gosh, yes. So, the one thing that I'll say, I work with a lot of high achieving or overachieving type entrepreneurs, right? And one, it's like the language that you're using is so incredibly important, right? So, please be noticing, acknowledge in a very non judgmental perspective and view of the language that you're really utilizing for yourself. And the other thing I would say, is how are you defining success, right? And we have to, and we get to be really radically honest with ourselves in terms of what does that truly look like for you? And I often even say, like, sometimes the definition of someone's success can absolutely change and evolve. So narrative therapy is a form of therapy or modality that helps people separate themselves from their problems, okay? It's based on the idea that you are not your struggles are just a story, and you have just been telling yourself these stories over and over, right? And if the story isn't serving you, you have the power to change it, right? Rather than viewing yourself as like stuck or broken, or any of these things, it truly helps you reframe that. So, narrative therapy in terms of entrepreneurship, right? I feel that working with so many business owners throughout many different niches and industries, whether that's in person or online, people will absolutely create stories based upon events, right? Again, whether it's an online coach and you are doing a very big launch for a program and people aren't coming in, you create a story, right? I'm not good enough. No one's ever going to buy. I can't do anything right. I need XYZ. Or, it's something in the in person world where you're doing this big open house. And again, like nobody shows up and you have all these stories, these internal narratives. So, utilizing narrative therapy helps you rewrite that script, right? It helps you step into a new version. Something that I do with clients all the time, and you all can start doing this, right? Is really thinking about the next scenario that happens or a negative event that occurs. And I want you to flip the switch and think of like a loved one or a really good friend, someone who means a lot to you. And what would the story you what would the story and what would the language be that you would then be utilizing if that loved one came to you and said, I have that failed launch. I couldn't get people into my program, or I did this open house and not as many people showed up, right? Challenge that, taking yourself out of it, right? Because once you take yourself out, I can almost guarantee working with hundreds of almost thousands of people, your response when it is not for you and it is actually for someone that you love is going to be vastly different.
Mm, such a great advice, and I think I would encourage all of our listeners to try it out. Also, another aspect, I think this is very, very relatable and very much important to discuss, balancing business and parenthood. Do you think it is possible, Lauren? Because you became a parent during one of the most uncertain times, right in the middle of COVID, and you were also
Yeah.
doing your business. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if you can throw some light on that, I mean, is it possible?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I have so many clients who say to me, like, is it possible, right? Is it even possible to have a successful business, be that successful entrepreneur, and be not just a parent, but a present parent? So, like, first and foremost, if you are out there and this is you, I am going to really expand and strongly suggest that you claim that belief, right? Your human mind, the mind is such a beautiful, incredible thing. It goes out and it tries to find data based on the thing that you actually believe right now. Your mind is not set to challenge, right? So it's a tool and it's a skill that we utilize, but you have to honestly say to yourself, yes, I can. And there's going to be a way. And no matter what, I'm going to figure that out. And there are different phases of business. I remember when I was first starting out, my daughter was very, very young at the time, and, like, I speak all the time to the challenges, right? A startup business, that growth phase in business, are there going to be challenges? Are there going to be possible sacrifices? 100%. A lot of the things that helped me in the beginning, was one, like, showing up for myself, right? Being able to still provide or give myself something so I then could bring that into my family and into my clients and into the growth of my business. That's first and foremost. And flipping that script that that's like a selfish thing, right? Number two, it's having really, really clear boundaries, right? Boundaries with clients, with patients, with people coming into your business, with other family members. This is something I see all the time when people are a business owner or entrepreneur that family members don't kind of respect their own schedule. And that was something like I was in corporate right before I went fully into the LLC that I was starting in 2020. And you have to adopt, right? These are my work hours. These are my work hours, and this is like my mom time or my family time, right? And I also say too, back to like the growth and the phases within business, your growth phase isn't forever, and there's always going to be light at the end of the tunnel. Support is so important whenever you can pull that in. But, I look back, even at the last couple years, and I always say, like, thank God I pushed at that time because now, my daughter is only 4 years old and I take her out of school, whenever we want to go to the aquarium. I completely build my own hours. I built an entire team. There's so much power to building out a team even before you're ready. And that was something that would just made such a difference that I now teach clients how to do. But again, it comes back to really anchoring into the belief that like you can be that present parent and have a wildly successful business.
Absolutely. I think parenting teaches us so many basics of business. It's like this is just one. It actually because I was having another one of my guests talking about communication in leadership, people managing skills, how to create a collaborative team. So parenting, I think it's one of that gift which teaches you the basics of people management because kids, I think managing kids and helping them grow up. I think it's one of the most difficult yet a very rewarding job.
Oh my gosh, yes, I agree so much. I think, when I think of being a parent and everything that it teaches us, it's so much it comes down to emotional regulation, right? Which is a foundational skill in communication, in leadership. And if you are a parent, you are practicing this, whether you realize it or not, building your emotional intelligence, practicing emotional regulation, and it just absolutely teaches you to be a better leader, to be a better business owner.
Beautiful, beautiful, Lauren. So before we wrap up, if our listeners they would wish to connect with you and explore more about your work, your resources, uh, connect with you personally, maybe how they can do that.
Of course, I would love to connect. I truly say, even though I built this incredible team, I still manage, I outreach. If you come and find me on Instagram, please reach out. Let me know what lands and resonated. It's Lauren Nicole Balterman on Instagram. And feel free. I have a wonderful, incredible community of over 3,000 women, high achieving parents, entrepreneurs inside a free Facebook group. The Facebook group is called Empowered Wholeness.
Lovely, lovely. We'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes. And Lauren, thank you so much for this insightful, resonating conversation. I think your journey is so inspiring, and the work you are doing is truly, truly transformational. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to all of our listeners as well for joining this episode of The Mindful Living. And I would like to add that success doesn't have to come at the cost of your well being. If you enjoyed today's episode, if you connected with what we talked about, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, stay mindful and keep